Here is the rewritten script in full, following all your rules. My name is Maria Rose. I've lived for 112 years. Back when I was 80, I was fading away, not in some dramatic, sudden way, more like a candle quietly burning down in a room where no one is watching. My legs hurt so badly that I couldn't stand long enough to boil water for tea. Every single night my knees would throb. Climbing out of bed each morning felt like trying to scale a mountain that just kept getting steeper. The doctors handed me one pill after another, sent me from one specialist to the next, and somewhere in all that shuffling from appointment to appointment, I simply lost myself. My children were wonderful people, but they were already in their 50s, already exhausted, already making their own plans for retirement. So I agreed to go into a nursing home. I packed 2 suitcases and told myself that this was where my story would finally end. And then Dorothy walked through that door. We had attended the same high school in Ohio 60 years before that afternoon. She looked at least 30 years younger than anyone her age had a right to look. She pulled a chair up across from me, took both my hands in hers, and asked, "Maria, what on earth happened to you?" She told me about 5 specific foods mentioned in the Bible, but she also told me something else, something I'm going to share at the very end of this, because without that final piece, the food alone means almost nothing. That conversation happened 32 years ago, and here I am today, still living independently, still at peace in my beloved home and garden. My legs still do their job. Here is exactly what Dorothy shared with me. Asterisk, asterisk. 1. Olive oil. The ancient world called it liquid gold. The Bible talks about olive oil more than 140 times. Kings were anointed with it. Wounds were treated with it. This wasn't just decoration. It wasn't ritual for the sake of ritual. The people who wrote those ancient texts were deeply observant. They paid close attention to what actually healed them, and olive oil healed them. Dorothy poured olive oil over nearly every single thing she ate. Not the pale, watery, weak kind that comes in a plastic bottle from the back of a grocery store shelf. I'm talking about real extra virgin olive oil, cold-pressed, dark in color, with a smell that actually tells you something meaningful. I had heard about olive oil my entire life, but I never once thought of it as medicine. I thought of it as salad dressing. I was completely wrong. When I started using it every single day, genuinely using it, not just occasionally, a tablespoon stirred into warm water first thing in the morning, poured generously over my cooked vegetables, drizzled over fish, used in place of every other oil I owned. Something began to change. Not overnight. Nothing truly real ever happens overnight. But within a few weeks, that grinding, relentless stiffness in my knees, the kind that made the very first steps out of bed feel like a form of punishment, began to ease. Not disappear entirely, but ease the way someone reaches over and turns down the volume on a radio that's been blaring too loudly. The science, as Dorothy explained it to me, comes down to a compound in real olive oil called oleocanthal. It works inside your body almost exactly the way ibuprofen works, quieting the chronic inflammation that makes your joints stiff and wears down your muscle tissue over time. Chronic inflammation is one of the greatest silent thieves of old age. You don't see it happening. You just feel yourself getting slower, stiffer, heavier, less willing to move. And the less you move, the weaker your legs become. Olive oil, the real kind, works to interrupt that destructive cycle. For your legs specifically, the benefit comes down to circulation. The healthy fats in good olive oil keep your blood vessels flexible and responsive. That means oxygen and nutrients can reach your muscles efficiently. You feel less heavy. Recovery after any kind of activity comes faster. The tendons and soft tissue surrounding your knee and hip joints stay better lubricated, more supple, less prone to that locked-up, frozen feeling that makes so many older adults afraid to walk very far from their own front door. Get the real thing. Look for cold-pressed, extra virgin, dark glass bottle, a harvest date on the label. Use it the way the ancient world used it, generously, daily, without apology. Asterisk, asterisk. 2. Honey. Asterisk, asterisk. Not the bear-shaped plastic bottle. The real thing. Eat honey, for it is good. That's from the book of Proverbs. Honey and milk are under your tongue. That's from Solomon. When Jonathan dips the tip of his rod in honey, his eyes brighten. The Bible doesn't present honey as just a sweet treat. It presents honey as a substance that gives strength and mental clarity. Raw honey, the kind that has never been heated past 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the kind that still contains all of its original enzymes and beneficial compounds, is one of the most powerful natural antimicrobials ever studied. It kills bacteria that even some antibiotics cannot touch. Ancient warriors used it in wound dressings for very practical reasons. It works, but what does honey have to do with your legs? More than you might guess. The muscles in your legs depend on efficient energy delivery. They depend on your gut absorbing nutrients properly. They depend on low levels of systemic inflammation. Raw honey supports all three of those things at once. It provides natural sugars that your body can actually use without the violent spike and crash that comes from refined sugar. It feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut, which improves how well your body absorbs every other nutrient you eat. And it carries enzymes and antioxidants that calm the inflammatory pathways that would otherwise slowly eat away at your muscle tissue and joint comfort. I take 1 spoonful every single morning. Sometimes I stir it into warm water with a squeeze of fresh lemon. Sometimes I just eat it straight off the spoon. The key, and Dorothy was very, very specific about this, is raw and unheated. That clear, perfectly smooth, indefinitely shelf-stable product they sell in most grocery stores. It has been heated and filtered to the point where most of what made it valuable has been destroyed. It tastes like honey, but it's not honey in the way your great-grandmother would have recognized honey. Find a local beekeeper if you possibly can. Farmers markets usually carry it. Look for the kind that has some cloudiness, some texture, sometimes even a little crystallization. That's what real honey looks like. That's the kind that still has something alive in it. **3, figs, the fruit that healed a king. Here's a detail from the Bible that most people just walk right past. When King Hezekiah was dying from a severe infection, a dangerous festering skin ulcer, the prophet Isaiah didn't simply pray over him. He ordered a paste of figs to be pressed directly onto the wound, and Hezekiah recovered. For a very long time, people read that as a strange, superstitious folk remedy. Now we know better. Figs contain an enzyme called phycin, a proteolytic enzyme that breaks down dead tissue and supports genuine healing. Figs also contain compounds with documented antimicrobial properties. The fig wasn't chosen randomly, it was chosen because it worked, because generations of careful observation had established that it worked. What matters most about figs for your legs is mineral density and gut support. Figs are extraordinarily rich in magnesium, potassium, calcium, and several B vitamins. In the world before multivitamins existed, figs were the supplement, and magnesium in particular is something that most older adults are severely deficient in without even knowing it. Magnesium is what allows your muscles to relax. When your magnesium levels are too low, your muscles exist in a constant state of low-grade tension. You feel it as cramps, as nighttime leg spasms, as that heavy, tight, achy feeling after you've been walking for a while, as legs that simply will not fully unwind when you finally lie down to rest. I had that for years, that specific misery. Within 1 month of eating figs regularly, that particular suffering began to ease in a way that no prescription medication had ever managed. The potassium in figs supports proper muscle contraction. Without enough potassium, the signals from your nerves to your muscles get confused, coordination suffers, balance suffers. The small, precise, almost invisible adjustments your legs make constantly just to keep you upright become less reliable. Eat them fresh when they're in season. Keep dried figs on hand for the rest of the year. They're sweet enough to feel like a small indulgence, but they're doing serious, serious work. Asterisk, asterisk. 4. Almonds. Asterisk, asterisk. The nut the Bible built a temple around. When God gave Moses the instructions for designing the temple's lampstand, the menorah, he specified that the cups should be shaped like almond blossoms. Aaron's rod, the one that miraculously budded with almonds. The almond is the first tree to bloom in spring, a symbol of watchfulness, of readiness, of life returning before anything else dares to show itself. The people who designed those ancient rituals weren't thinking about nutrition the way we understand it today, but they were building an entire culture around a food that turned out to be one of the most nutrient-dense things a human being can eat. 1 ounce of almonds, which is roughly a small handful, provides about 37% of your daily vitamin E. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects your cell membranes from oxidative damage. In your leg muscles, that matters enormously. Every single time you walk, every time you climb a single step, every time you push yourself up out of a chair, your muscle fibers undergo stress. They develop tiny micro tears. That's normal. That's how muscles maintain and rebuild themselves. But they need antioxidants to repair properly, to come back stronger rather than coming back inflamed and degraded. Almonds also provide magnesium, which we've already talked about, and monounsaturated fats that support healthy circulation. But perhaps most important for the legs of older adults, almonds provide a slow, steady, reliable form of energy that doesn't spike and crash. A small handful in the mid-afternoon when energy tends to dip and legs tend to feel their heaviest makes a difference. That's almost immediate. Clinical research has shown that regular almond consumption lowers LDL cholesterol, reduces the blood sugar spikes that damage blood vessels, and supports gut microbiome diversity, which in turn affects how efficiently your entire body absorbs and uses nutrients. I eat a small handful every single day, raw or very lightly roasted, not salted, not coated in anything, not processed into something else, just almonds. The ancient world kept it that simple. That's still the right approach. Asterisk, asterisk, 5. Fish. Asterisk, asterisk. The food that fed the disciples. Fish shows up everywhere in the Gospels. The disciples were fishermen. The miracle of the loaves and fishes centered on fish. After the resurrection, Jesus ate fish with his followers by the shore. None of this was incidental or accidental. In first-century coastal Israel, fish was the primary source of protein for ordinary people. And it turns out those ordinary people were eating one of the most powerful muscle-preserving, joint-protecting, nerve-supporting foods on the entire planet. The fish of the biblical world were eaten simply grilled over charcoal. No batter, no heavy processing, no industrial seed oils that obliterate the very nutrients that make fish worth eating. Just fish prepared with nothing that interferes. What makes fish absolutely irreplaceable for aging legs is omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. Your body cannot manufacture these on its own. They have to come from food, and their effect on the muscles and joints of older adults is among the most thoroughly documented findings in all of nutritional science. Omega-3s reduce the systemic inflammation that slowly destroys muscle tissue. They improve the flexibility of blood vessel walls, which ensures that oxygen and nutrients can reach your leg muscles efficiently, and that waste products can be carried away promptly. They protect the sheath surrounding your nerve fibers, which means the signals telling your leg muscles exactly what to do travel more accurately, resulting in better coordination, better balance, and fewer of those terrifying moments where your leg just doesn't respond quite the way you intended. Sarcopenia, the accelerating muscle loss that comes with aging, is significantly slowed by regular omega-3 consumption. Studies have shown that older adults who eat fatty fish 2 to 3 times per week retain muscle mass at a meaningfully higher rate than those who don't. That's not a minor benefit. That's the difference between legs that carry you and legs that have begun to fail you. I eat salmon, sardines, and anchovies, simple preparations baked with olive oil and lemon, or straight from a responsibly sourced can when that's what I have, 2 to 3 times per week without fail, for 32 years now. I promised you something at the end. I told you Dorothy shared a secret, something beyond the food, and I need you to hear this, because without it, the 5 foods I just described will help you, but they will not save you. When Dorothy sat across from me in that nursing home visiting room, she looked at me very carefully and asked a question I was not prepared for. She said, "Maria, what are you carrying?" I didn't understand what she meant at first. She said it again. "What are you still carrying? What happened to you that you haven't put down?" And then I understood. 30 years before that afternoon, My husband had an affair. It lasted 2 years. When I found out, something inside me broke in a way that I had told myself had healed over time, but it had not. I had rebuilt my life. I had smiled through decades of Christmas dinners and grandchildren's birthdays and anniversary parties for other people. I had said I forgave him because that was what a good woman was supposed to do, but I had not forgiven him. I had packed the wound tight, covered it over, and gone on living on top of it. Dorothy said to me, very quietly, "That is what is making you sick, not just your knees. You." I wanted to argue. I had arguments ready. I had lived with this thing for 30 years, and I was very practiced at explaining why the anger was reasonable, why the hurt was legitimate, why forgiving didn't mean forgetting. All of that is true, and all of it was killing me. Hatred is not like a weapon you hold, it's like a poison you drink. The person you're angry at is not affected, you are affected. Every single cell in your body registers the chronic stress of unexpressed grief and suppressed fury. Your cortisol stays elevated, your inflammation pathways stay activated, your immune function degrades, your sleep fractures into pieces, your muscles stay tense and never fully release. The legs that ache every morning are not just aching from age, they are aching from the weight of everything you have refused to put down. I spent the next year doing the hardest thing I have ever done. I forgave my husband, not because what he did was acceptable, it was not. Not because he deserved peace. I don't know what he deserved, but because I deserved peace. Because I had spent 30 years drinking poison and wondering why I felt so sick. And then I did the other thing Dorothy told me to do, the thing that filled the space that the anger left behind. I started helping people, small things. In the nursing home there was a woman on the floor below mine who had no family visiting her. I started stopping by her room in the afternoons. There was a man who couldn't see well enough to read his mail. I read it to him. There was a woman who had been a piano teacher her whole life and missed music more than she could say. I found out the common room had an old upright piano that nobody ever played. I asked the staff to wheel her down to it on Thursday afternoons. None of this was large. All of it was real. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps, wrote that human beings can endure almost any kind of suffering if they have a reason for it. Meaning is not a luxury, it is a biological necessity. When you have something to wake up for, when someone or something actually needs you, your body responds, your nervous system quiets down, your inflammation markers fall, your muscles receive better signals, your legs, which your body had been slowly convincing itself had no urgent purpose, begin to remember what they are actually for. I walked out of that nursing home 14 months after Dorothy's visit. I have never been back. I am now 112 years old. My legs carry me through my garden every single morning. I do not take any of the medications I was on at 80. I sleep without pain. I am not telling you this to impress you. I am telling you this because I wasted 30 years that I cannot get back. And if one person watching this video puts something down today that they have been carrying for too long, then this was worth saying. Start with the olive oil, add the honey, eat your figs and your almonds, eat your fish 2 or 3 times a week. These things are real. They will help your legs, they will help your joints, they will help your muscles remember what they are still capable of. But also look honestly at what you are carrying. Not what happened to you, that happened. It was real. You did not deserve it, but you get to decide what you do with it now. You get to decide whether it continues to be something you live under or something you put down and walk away from. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the most powerful thing I have ever done, and I have lived through a great deal. Find one person who needs something small that you can give, not money, not heroism, just attention, just presence, just the particular dignity of being seen by someone who chose to see them. Do that consistently and watch what happens to your own strength. Watch what happens to your legs when your whole body believes it has somewhere worth going. Dorothy gave me 5 foods and 1 truth. The foods fed my body, the truth set it free. Eat well, forgive everything, show up for someone. That is all I know, that is everything. I am Maria Rose, I am 112 years old, and I will see you in the garden tomorrow morning. Asterisk, the information shared in this video reflects personal experience and is intended for educational and inspirational purposes only. Please consult your physician or a qualified healthcare provider before making significant changes to your diet, especially if you are managing chronic conditions or taking medications